What if the thing standing in front of you, the thing that looks too big, too strong, too impossible, was never meant to stop you, but to reveal what you're made of? Before there was a battlefield, before there was a giant, there was a boy no one paid attention to. His name was David. He wasn't a warrior, he wasn't trained for battle, and he wasn't standing in front of crowds. He was in the fields, taking care of sheep, living a quiet life, doing what most people would consider insignificant. The sun stretched slowly across the hills as the sheep moved gently, and David stood watching the horizon, not like someone lost in thought, but like someone who felt there was more ahead of him than what he could currently see. Then a voice called out behind him. "David." He turned and saw his father, Jesse, standing there with intention. "Take this food to your brothers. They are with the army." David paused, looking at the sheep, then back at his father. "Is everything all right?" Jesse hesitated briefly. "They are at war." Something shifted inside David, something quiet but certain, like a moment he didn't fully understand yet, but knew he was stepping into. He took the supplies and began the journey. As he walked, the atmosphere began to change. The air grew heavier, not because of what he could see, but because of what he could feel. It was the kind of tension that tells you something is wrong before you even understand why. Then he heard it. A voice rising from the valley, loud and filled with mockery, calling out the armies of Israel with boldness, dominating the air and silencing everything else around it. When David reached the camp, what he saw didn't match what he expected. This didn't look like an army ready for war. It looked like men who had already accepted defeat. They avoided eye contact. Their movements were slow. Conversations were quiet and uncertain. Then he saw him. Goliath stood in the valley, towering above everything, not just in size, but in presence, like a force that had already taken control of the battle before it began. Goliath stepped forward again and shouted, "Choose a man for yourselves, and let him come down to me." No one moved. David looked around, confused at first, then frustrated. "Why is no one doing anything?" he asked. His brother turned sharply. "David, be quiet. You don't understand what you're saying. Go back home." But David didn't move. "Then why is everyone acting like it is already over?" he replied. "Because that is what fear does. It convinces you that the battle is finished before it even begins." Word spread quickly, and David was brought before Saul. Saul looked at him carefully. "You are not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him," he said. "For you are a youth, and he has been a man of war from his youth." David stepped forward, calm but firm. "Your servant used to keep his father's sheep," he said, "and when a lion or a bear came and took a lamb out of the flock, I went out after it and struck it and delivered the lamb from its mouth." The room grew quiet. "And when it arose against me, I caught it by its beard, and struck it and killed it." Saul said nothing. "Your servant has killed both lion and bear," David continued, "and this uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, seeing he has defied the armies of the living God." Then he said the words that carried everything. "The Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear, he will deliver me from the hand of this Philistine." There was a pause. Then Saul said quietly, "Go, and the Lord be with you." They placed armor on David, heavy and unfamiliar, trying to prepare him in the only way they knew how. David took a few steps, then stopped. He removed it. "I cannot walk with these, for I have not tested them." Because courage does not come from copying others. It comes from trusting what God has already placed in your hands. David walked to the stream, the sound of water cutting through the tension. He bent down and chose 5 smooth stones, simple but enough. Then he stood and walked into the valley. Every step forward went against what everyone else believed. Every step forward was a decision. Goliath saw him and laughed. "Am I a dog, that you come to me with sticks?" he said, mocking him. Then he cursed David and said, "Come to me, and I will give your flesh to the birds of the air and the beasts of the field." David stopped and looked up. And then he spoke. You come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. The atmosphere shifted. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hand, David continued, and I will strike you and take your head from you. Now it was no longer just a battle. It was a declaration. Then David ran. Not away. Forward. The sling moved, the stone was released, and in a single moment, everything changed. The giant fell. Silence filled the valley. Then shock. Then movement. Because courage is contagious.
Charge!
The same army that stood still began to move forward. Victory spread. But David stood still. Because the battle had already been won long before that moment. It was won the moment he chose not to run. And this is where the story becomes yours. Because your giant may not stand in a valley, but it stands somewhere in your life. It speaks to you, telling you that you are not enough, that you should stay where you are, that you should not move. But courage speaks differently. Courage reminds you of what God has already done in your life. It reminds you that what you are facing now is not greater than the God who is with you. So the question is not how big your giant is. The question is whether you will step forward. Because everything changes the moment you do. If this spoke to you, don't just watch and move on. Comment below, I will not run. And if you are ready to grow, to build your faith, and to face what others avoid, subscribe and stay on this journey. Because your story is not over yet.